Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Jembadde itaita nsanza abasajja nga bagamba lwaki bala batukula Farida lwaki mukula abasajja
omusajja baba tebamukudde asanyuka busanyusi n'akuwa ssente kati bw'alaba nga tafunye kyayagala n'alowooza mbu wamukudde aba yazikuwadde oba tewamukudde.
Okay, Lydian, lwaki mwagala abasajja abakulu?
Nabo batwagala naye fetubagala lwakuba tutegekera future.
Okay, tutegekera future. What you say? For more insightful topics, yes, keep it the Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk. Remember, Snap Talk airs every Saturday, right from 6 to 7, with your girl Teddy Tenjo. But I never come alone. I come with the two beautiful girls. Meanwhile, we have a new home. I'm super excited. What do you think of our new home, Farida?
I love it.
I just love everything.
Yes, let's keep it the Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Hey Ugandans, I'm Lieutenant Colonel Dewa Kiki, the Deputy Defense Spokesperson and actually the Deputy Spokesperson for the Uganda People's Defense Forces. I was hosted on Alternative Dig Talk. I encourage all Ugandans that this is the way to go. Always watch, participate, give your views and ask questions on Alternative Dig Talk. Dig Talk, the way to go.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
It's a good morning, mwasuze mutya mwena gwena osinzidde okubanga otulaba amakya amalungi osibye otya wasuze otya akawungeza akalungi okusinziira wonna woba osinzidde mu bitundu by'ensi ebyenjawulo kwa ffenna tulina time zones ez'enjawulo. Leero ennaku z'omwezi ndowooza ziri 28 omwezi gwa December omwaka gwa 2021. Omwaka tugutwaliriza tulina ennaku 3 oba 4 okubanga tugukuba olukulu mu mutwe. Twebaza Katonda okubanga atuusizza wano wetuuse oba oli awo gwafunye okusoomoozebwa naye kyebayize Mukama nti obadde okyalina mulamu nammwe abafunye ebirungi era nakyo mukimwebalize mwebale mu mugambe nti Mukama weebale. Nze mukose Arnold Anthony n'ebikobere Farida okubanga tukutuusaako the mighty drive. Leero tulina omugenyi Nabuyanda John Solomon ono human rights defender abamulwanyizi wa ddembe. Tugenda kutunuulira ensonga ez'enjawulo naye ng'ensonga esinga obukulu kwe kuba nti yasindikiddwa oba yaweerezeddwa Professor Kanyeihamba George Wilson okubanga twogera ku katabo ke akapya The Defeat of President Museveni. N'akatabo kalimu ensonga nyingi naye tujja kuba tutunulira mpola mpola kigambo kimu ebiri okulabanga tukategeera kikigenderwa kiki yabadde professor kyeyatunuulidde oba kyaluubirwa okutuusa eri abantu naddala bannamateeka n'abannabyabufuzi. Naye mu kaseera kano eno tuli mu Mighty Global Updates. Leero tugenda kukola mu vibe ya muto wange mukwano gwaffe Edgar Mafika Ruhanga. Tugenda jukuba Kasavu Kanyama nze n'ebikobere Farida naye kasooke atubuuzeeko then tandikiraawo wasize otya buuzaako abalabe baffe then tandikiraawo tugende mu maaso.
abatukeereddeko mbalamusizaako katusuubire ekiro kyababeeredde kirungi nga ffe mukama akyatukumye ffe tugamba nti alhamdulillah bwe tuba tukyalina obulamu ng'ate yadde tulinamu obugonvugonvu naye tujja saba mukama ate atuyambe kuba waliwo abali mu kulwanira obulamu ennyo okusinga ffe nga bali ku bitanda so ffe abasobola okutambula nga tukyasobola n'okugenda ku mulimu okukola tugamba bugambe nti alhamdulillah mukama webale olunaku lwaleero nno we are in for Edgar Matthew Karuhanga for the mighty global updates. But before we start giving you the updates, let me first give you the quote of the day. Opportunity is missed by most people because it is dressed in overalls and it looks like work. Opportunity is missed by most people because it is dressed in overalls and it looks like work. Buli omuntu akera kumacha every day in the out ng'anoonya opportunity. The opportunity zabula, but some people don't want to work. An opportunity does not present to you mboyagala kugenda. You want to go to Canada. You have never gotten an opportunity of going to Canada. Maybe you babaddewo bakuwa omulimu abayuweni nga togwagala. Maybe you do not want to work, but you want to go to Canada. How will you even go there? So sometimes opportunities is not to restaurant we are sangidde omuzungu eyaliza okulya no abamu baagala n'abaana abazungu obayita bamaleeto nabo baagala bamaleeto abaana baba balungi nemegamba nti mbo kituufu abaana baba balungi omuddugavu mixture y'omuddugavu n'omuzungu so bagamba nze siweereza mmere toweereza mmere osanga omuzungu eyali kusanze naye kati musakazi wattu osiiba waka wa musajja wattu osiiba waka omuzungu ewuwo mu kafunda
anakimayoki
agenda noonyayoki so bannaye twetege bakuyita kwetega bwe tuba tulina ekyo kye twetaaga. If you want something, go look for opportunities. Sometimes opportunities dressed in an overall of work. Nti ojja kufuna omulimu ataawo ku mulimu ojja osisinkanira ebinene oyagala okusisinkana prime minister bajja kuwa omulimu somewhere kati in the course of the work prime minister ajakyali mu office yammwe omulabe oba mwogere so tuleme kutunuulira nnyo ekinene osanga buno obuntuntu obutono ennyo bwe tubuusa amaaso yandibadde nti lyekkubo lyaffe okusanga
nabadde mpuliriza omusumba Bujingo agamba nti ffenna ku nsi tulina emirimu alina omulimu ate anaakola nawe atalina mulimu olina omulimu ogwokeera okunoonya omulimu
awo ndo tubakirewo n'amawulire agakoze headlines tutandikire ku lya Bujingo lyennyini
Bujingo ensonga ze zirinnye enkandaggo era nga buli lunaku zireetawo embeera empya twali tukyali awo kuba nti yakoze statement ku police oba defense ye ku misango egimuvunaanibwa okuba nti yatyoboola ssemateeka bwe yagenda mu bufumbo obulala obukontana n'obufumbo obulala mu mateeka obufumbo obukkiriza okuwasa abakazi nga bweyagala ekasitomale nti bwe nzija n'enkyala ewammwe ndibadde mbukukyala awala n'awalala
abasiraamu muzigiti era ogenda n'okyala ewala
kiyinza kugamba naye balina limiti y'abana oba kitegeera naye buno obulala ne babakazi 10 okola ki osobola as long as tutaddeeko mpeta togenze mu kooti oba wa DC okulaba nti ofuna so osobola okufaza abakazi naye kati Bujingo kye yakola yagenda mu church n'afuna empeta nga nawe tanamenya we mpeta eno n'awasa omukyalo omulala so
yakiyise casual visit
okay twakyali ku mimicking marriage kuba kusema settlement yagamba nti fayafuna mu buto twagegenyanga omuwala w'omuntu nti tuli bafumbo so bwe yakiyise mu defense ye nti kwabadde kugegenya so omusumba omulamba yatambudde n'akulumbula abantu abazadde n'abayisaamu olugaayo just kugegenya bufumbo bwena kubeera okay si ensonga enkulu
sente zikola ebyo
naye obukadde nga 5 plus anyway bajja gamba tuli bavu tulina ku discussing abantu but we are not discussing people but we are discussing the
sente z'endiga abawaayo ebiramu
no Bujingo baga yamaze nga akola sijaga mazandiga ekyo sikinako obujulizi
obujulizi tujjabeera nabo as long as akyasaba okuzimba Kanani etanda
no kufa tuveeyo kuba teyalina bujulizi bugamba bulaga nti twagenze ku akaunti ya kubateekeza Kanani kwe yajje but
alina statement endala gye yafulumiza esukka ku mimicking marriage
kati ye twali tukyali awo amuvunaana wa prosecutor Omanyi guno musango criminal this is a criminal of is being charged under criminal proceedings nti this time around DPPC yamuvunaana kuba ebisinga omuntu abulijjo okuvunaana criminal case then DPP oba saabawaabi wa government natwala omusango naye kuno saabawaabi yagambye ng'okulekedde Made Mabirizi kati ye prosecutor kati Mabirizi bujinga aba akyawakana nti yabadde amimikinga kwanjula okukyala bujingo Made Mabirizi n'awandiikira UCC emuwe akatambi akali official akwena kuzomwezi nga 7 December 2021 kaba awaayo ng'obujulizi mu kooti okulaga nti this wasn't mimicking, this was introduction. Then awandikira ne Honorable Nyombi Tembo. Ono Nyombi Tembo naye mukungu mu UCC naye nga yakulira department ey'okutwala transmission mu byalo. Naye kuba omukolo gwali mu makage nina amwandika mu butongole naye amuddemu amutegeeze omukolo gwe yakyaze uwe gwali mukolo kikaaki singa bino nayimuwa kuba muteeka akkirizibwa okufuna kagenda kugatta obujulizi n'ebbaluwa okuva mu LC1 ey'okukyalo ye already yatayirekayo n'agamba tebampita naye kusiza kyo n'aba newange n'abatuuze kyeba report zinafuna kwali kwanjula kwali mu maka ga mukulu Nyombi Tembo era nkakasa bulungi nga bino byembagambye gemazima amatuufu era gemazima ameerere kwali kukyala okw'omukolo
kukyala kwanjula
kwali oba kukyala oba kwanjula naye like omukolo gwakolebwa it was a marriage ceremony a cultural oba traditional marriage ceremony so ebyo nga bikyali awo katulinde naye twist empya eyazze mu nsonga zino era tusabire nesimanyi tusabira Musumba Bujingo ne Suzani oba tusabira Made Mabirizi n'abesaidi anti muli timu bbiri mu timu divorce ne omana timu no divorce no ngamba abali wabweru bana timu zibbiri bali timu divorce ne timu no divorce ne bayofa ababyabo obulabi monnange wakati nze mbuuza ngwewa on a personal level Bujingo yali mukama wange nze nganze Bujingo yali mukama wange Suzani Makula yali mukozi monnange Made Mabirizi mukwano gwange Teddy Bujingo yali mama wange ngakyali kusoola so kati nze ndabirabe ndinga bana bagamba nti zindaba olwange atwalira basibe emmere so kati basabire tulabe gye binagwera naye nga ey'ensonga bwetyo bweyimiridde Bujingo singa omusango guno gumukamuvi yandisibwa
tewaliwo kibonerezo kirala
sinategeeza muteeka okusinza kweno gundi mpozi nja kudda mu nsome sijja kugamba nti omanyi eriyo emisango egimu but also emisango gino giba n'ebintu bibiri osobola okuwa ekimu ku byo oba byombi still oba okitegeera naye oba guliko fine osobola okusibwa nowa ne fine oba nowa fine yokka oba okusibwa so kisinza omulamuzi ayinza omugamba kiwakoze bisasula bikola byombi oba kiwakoze kive naye kale tukube fine tukiddangamu naye obufumbo tebu anyway kyo kirekawa okwanjula kirekawa Suzani Makula bwe kibanga Bujingo mweganya emisana tukunagamba ntai sikumanyi
bayinza okubanga bateeseza bakikolebwe batyo naye nze tunuulidde nti kirekawa eddiini enzikiriza ezimu kubanga pastor omulamba bw'avaayo in broad daylight neyeewaka n'ebintu byakoze oba byeyakola nga buli omu akiraba ate n'akomawo ku kituuti n'akyewaaniramu because yakikola nga gamba jangu Makula tutambulemu oluddewo okumpasa and then within no time no gamba nti sekwali kwanjula it was a casual visit
but first of all bantu bangi bagenda kugwa oba bagenda kuserera bagenda setuka kuva mu maaso ga Katonda bwe kibanga omusumba osina okwegaana emisana tuku abantu kye balabye because not every defense in law is truth.
So I would think Bujingo yakera nakoleyo step. I thought he was ready for the outcomes that whatever it may bring, we are ready. He would have owned everything. Nagamba anti it is okay. Byabawo. I thought they had prepared themselves and they had a very
majorities,
good air.
and
And they had a very good defense for whatever they did. Naye bw'avaayo n'abyewakana, it means Makula forced him to do the ceremonies. Nga ye tali ready. It means yabikolera ku force olw'okuba yali ayagala osanyusa omuntu omu. Because singa bakkiriziganya babiri babikole, he would stand on his toe. Ne ba-owninga mistake, ne ba-facinga charges. Naye bw'abanga agamba ate tebawaabira bantu babiri.
Of course, twakala defense ya muntu
Makula defense ye yali
so twakala kemo tukatulinde yo mulatulabe but also tulekera okugamba nti nze ensobi gye nkoze bwe butuufu wakitegeera nti mukose makes a mistake.
It is right based on a situation
because it's not right because hagikoze wakitegeera nti if Bujingo marries another wife out of the official marriage. For him,
it is a mistake, but for him it is right.
No, it's right. If to kubera mu nsobi like mu bufumbo bukake because gwakikoze. No za kino kituwe ekyokuyiga naye atuleka ku discussing nnyo Bujingo.
Bwe tugendako ebweru w'eggwanga mu China, city number erimu 13 million people eri under lockdown.
Omicron.
So abantu atebakkirizibwa fuluma mayumba gaabwe yadde okuggula windows. So abantu banna Uganda tebannatuwa lockdown endala. Because no one wants another lockdown.
Ntiddemu twandifuna lockdown. Omanyi ge mazima gakaawa. Nze nga sijagala kuba ebbanga lyemaze mu lockdown. Limala. Abaana bange tebasomye ebyenfuna byononese.
Yes.
Salyagadde on an individual basis lockdown. Naye kusebye tukola. Biyinza okutuusa mu lockdown ne one naye naba ekivulu kyawati broadcasting ekyabadde mutukula Tanzania kati enamba eyo nayo yaba ne Uganda yabadde Tanzania bwe banga bweti bwe yasaze neyekomawo Uganda ne badumikisinga naffe bwe banga okay sijjaga nti Tanzania balwadde naye in an event nti okay babadde bonabona bazina akawuka eggwanga liba liyimiriddewo.
Ate Tanzania yavuddeyo nayo neteekako strict new rules abantu abafuluma yaabwe
nga bagenda UAE,
Rwanda. So ndowooza kati bwe baba abagenze mutukula okudigidde bakomye wano Uganda nga weebali. We are headed for another lockdown of 21 days.
So I'm just worried kuba President Museveni wali lwagenda receiving reports okuva mu National Task Force okulaba ki ekiddako. So bana Uganda twandiforcing watomanya sikyagala but all signs show bwekiba nga nasa okweyogezaako nti ate katwenga report tulabe ate tomanya bino nalabye Joe Kabreta ng'agamba nti President Museveni yisimanyi is planning and proposing 21 days of lockdown bitandikawo ebityo so tulabe incubation period simanyi biki before you know it
naye nga bw'aba tuwadde another lockdown of 21 days to whose benefit is it? Is it to our benefit or to his benefit as the president?
First of all,
I think it is to our benefit as the president.
Health-wise, chituyamba. But the challenge we have as a country is that bakwese abamu ku bakungu ba government, not all, some bakwese pandemic okwekusana okwegaggawaza bonga bo mu kifo ky'okulaba nti tubona tutya kuba kati there are some measures zibakola kati nga baali badde bazikola dda. For example, njako vaccination twagula eddagala effe ng'eggwanga as Uganda, but we've never bought apart from donations. Kati omuntu yeebuuza ezaffe zaabulirawa esente parliament yayisa nga zagula ddagala tebagulangako
zigenda kukola ebirala.
But omanyi
abadde njagala kugula mmere n'ogimpa why would I go
ate si enkola ya government by the way yensonyiwa for example otera okugulira nti
maybe they send the money to other
it's illegal according to our laws. Yensonyiwa okugulira government bagamba ministry yakomyawo sente
kamanga atera okugamba sometimes you bend the law but you do not break
and kati ekyo
maybe they bent
the chief ministries and the government departments nti otokugulira nti twazayo sente bweziti mu ggwanga kiba kitegeeza mwasaba obukadde 5 okugula amafuta munagula amafuta ga bukadde 3 togamba nti buno bubiri
ne tuteeka ku mmere
nti buno bubiri
obuzaayo
wena kuddayo
kitegera
yeteeka so ezo ziri awo nga tunatera okuva mu mawulire gano tugaita mu lukwakwayo omusajja w'emyaka 56 okusinza ku poliisi yafudde Kanungu ng'afa mpaka za kulya ku Christmas nakunywa
n'omusajja w'emyaka 56 ekimutwala okukola empaka z'okulya kikyaki
nze ndowooza manyi Abanyuganda
kitalo nnyo si kirungi jaji ng'afudde naye
amazima eriyo omuntu nga ennyama for example ng'ennyama ngakifuna omulundi ogwo
n'ennyama ya pakwano lyeriika
yasobola laba yamuse kwateriika
mukama omwoyo gwabwe omuze kisa naye ate bwe tuba tukuza ebintu tubirekera abavubuka babikole 56 years myaka mingi nnyo okubanga nti oyo aba taata wange mulamba taata agenze ne yeetaba mu mpaka z'okulya it is really really bad kibi nnyo eri famire naye ng'ate naffe ng'eggwanga kituwa ekyokuyiga tugendako mu Somalia katono nnyo president yavuddeyo na suspendinga prime minister we on allegations of corruption ngamba nedda taata it is the second time nga suspending ate noza they were trying to mend fences because by no obutategeragana here and there but era on allegations of corruption against ngamba womuzaako ebikola gwe olabika tojja kukola bulungi we are praying moyo mutukuvu atukeko wanene waffe biberenga bwe biri
tukifunakoko
biberenga bwe biri e Somalia
president awomezeko minister omu oba n'emisa mwenye agambe amazima okusa kubijogerako designing Uganda
tujja gajja kuba mawulire
Uganda polisi yatutegeeza nti obubenje 248 bwe bwalabise mu Christmas era nga abantu basobola 58
waliwo story yankuteko nnyo omwana omuwala eyabadde yankamala 15 years nga takomanga wo Uganda kulaba abazadde be when she decided to come back she got into an accident while going to Arua actually teyasobodde kulaba abazadde be ate nga it was the main purpose teyatuuse waka kibi nnyo tetugenda gamba nti enguudo zo kale mbi naye sometimes naffe abakomawo tubeera n'amasanyu mangi nnyo excitement ebampitirivu emmotoka ne tuzivuganga bwe twagala it is bad nti n'abazadde tebasobodde kulaba ku mwana waabwe naye ng'ate tujja saba Mukama Katonda omwoyo gwe yaguwummuze mirembe bwe tusalako nno tugenda mu Premier League awo tuba tumaliriza abasajja ba Newcastle bekwatidde Manchester ne bagwa maliri babadde nno babatwaliriza mu kitundu ekisooka mu dakika y'omusanvu omusajja wa Newcastle n'abakubamu akagoola awo mpaka ekitundu ekyokubiri mu dakika y'ensanvu Cavani n'agamba nedda temujja tukuba naye aba Manchester kibasiba kibaleka mu kifo ekyomusanvu temuli mu kukola bulungi yadde n'akatono so mwongeremu amaanyi
kati gwa Chelsea muliyo onkongola bukongo
aba Chelsea tuli mu kifo kya kusatu aba Arsenal bali mu kifo kya kuna
naye temweyibala naye tetukola bulungi tumanyi anyway tumanyi ufunye Cristiano Ronaldo Santos Olivier tujja kubanga performance
muteka mwana
naye era oba oli awo twali tukulembeddeko naye tujja wenagwerako
yali akulembedde okudde mabega tumulemuko awo tuba tumaze Mighty Global Updates tugenda komawo n'omukulu Nabuyanda John Solomon is a human rights activist ngate twogeramu naye who is he what inspired him to be an activist what has he done what should the youth copy from him he's a young man so you have a lot to learn from him. We are going for a short commercial break. We'll be right back in a few minutes. Good morning.
Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
You
have got to get up pretty early to go do something. We are the Alternative TikTok. With our mobile studios, we are redefining TV presentation just as technology is setting the pace. We are blending our approach with fresh, perspectively designed breakfast show, The Mighty Drive, informative and entertainment show, exclusive and live interviews.
We President Museveni wadde juzi namulaba apima akawunga kilo 2 tasobola kalya nini bwaba alya kilo 5 oyanema okuliisa eggwanga ne bwe limundekera.
Njagala kwebaza the Alternative TikTok etuwadde kano ka Mighty Drive era n'abatuwuliriza bonna abali ku mikutu njagala basaba mugende mu maaso n'okuwuliriza.
All given to you just a click away on your phone, tablet, laptop, and smart TVs. As we are streaming live on our social media platforms, on the road and on the go. We are the Alternative TikTok.
The Alternative TikTok. Real issues, real talk.
Kulikayo nnyo mu kuumulamu okwo okutabadde kuwanvu oba kumpi okusinziira ku bugumiikiriza bwo. Mukose Arnold Anton n'ebikobere fera tukomyewo nate nga twegattiddwako omugenyi waffe Nabuyanda John Solomon okuba nga tutuusaako oba tutunuulira ensonga ez'enjawulo. Ono mulwanyizi wa ddembe era nga munnamateeka nga okujja wano akiikiridde Professor George Wilson Kanyeihamba era nga ezimu ku nsonga ezigenda okwogerwako ke kano akatabo The Defeat of President Museveni. Kano kalimu ensonga nyingi akozeeko ne President Museveni, bingi ebyayogedde ku President Museveni na lwaki agamba nti President Museveni yawangulwa oba awanguddwa oba defeated. So gwe wenna ayagala akatabo kano bogenda kuba ofunamu ebimu ku highlights na bigendererwa ki ebiri mu katabo kano osobola kasangawa naki professor yakawandiise. So John Solomon Nabuyanda akiikiridde Professor George Wilson Kanyeihamba ku nsonga eno yennyini ey'akatabo kano. Naye mu kusooka kwa byonna kansooke musabe akulamuseeko gwe atulaba then tandikiraawo. So osanyusa okulaba osobola baluzungu baluganda niwankubadde faamu oluzungu tutegeera bulungi nze nga nze omu.
What is comfortable with?
Abalabi baffe abalungi ku Mighty Drive mbaaniriza nate bakulisayo mu nnaku enkulu ez'eggandaalo ze mubaddemu ne mbagaliza omwaka omupya gwe twolekedde. Ng'omukulu na Arnold wabagambye nze Nabuyanda John Solomon tusuubira nga ndi mutakabani wa ddembe lya buntu nga tegera bulungi amateeka ga Uganda era I'm a former aspirant for Eastern Youth Member of Parliament mu kalulu akaggwa 2021 era olunaku lwaleero tuli wano ffenna okwogera ku nsonga enkulu nga tusinziira ku kirabo ekirungi Professor Kanyeihamba kye yatuwadde eno Christmas ekiyitibwa The Defeat of President Museveni. Mu katabo kaneeno wosoma chapter esembayo gye bayita The Succession of President Museveni. Professor Kanyeihamba yawandise n'agamba nti Museveni has indirectly but freely admitted that he lost the war on corruption. He confessed that under his rule, the police are the most corrupt institution in Uganda. Yet in the war against corruption, the police are the most and important weapon to use in that war. The heads of the two most important war battalions against corruption, the IGG and the Prime Minister, have freely admitted that their respective departments are severely crippled by corruption. They have therefore lost the war. This phenomenon applies equally to the president's office, where President Museveni is the boss. Kanuna Kalema, the anti-corruption commander in the president's office, has spilled her frustrations in a television interview recently. This is therefore the end of Museveni's agenda. He has truly lost the war. He has to go now. In consequence, the NRM party position is no longer be attainable. Any stay in office or power hereafter by the same leaders or party will spell disaster for Uganda and its people. It is therefore now imperative that Ugandans surface from the shadows of fear and seriously debate and resolve succession to President Museveni before it is too late, and it should be done now. Therefore, no comparing evidence that the Muhoozi project exists, nor is President Museveni shopping publicly for his successor. In fact, he is on record as having said that political succession in Uganda is not for him or other leaders, but the role of Ugandans themselves. When presidential elections are due again, President Museveni will be in his 80s. It is therefore fit and proper to debate his succession, not tomorrow or the day after, but today. Ugandans should not fear or be frightened from discussing succession to President Museveni now. I believe that the overwhelming majority of Ugandans believe that he has done a good job for this country despite the obvious obstacles and problems he encountered since he became president in 1986. I also believe that most Ugandans believe that President Museveni should and must retire in this term 2021 to 2026, and the earlier the better for Yoweri Kaguta Tibuhaburwa Museveni, his family, and for Uganda in particular. Incidentally, when you believe no explanation is necessary, but in the case of Museveni, Ugandans have many reasons for wanting him to leave now, as narrated in this book. Before both were forced out of office, the late Robert Mugabe of Zimbabwe and the late Dr. Kamuzo Banda of Malawi had discouraged, if not prohibited, any talk about their successor possibility of succession. Nevertheless, they were forced out of office and in each case successfully replaced. President Museveni is mindful about succession. The new vision of 13th December 2021 headlined the appointment of new ambassadors by Museveni and named them, showing their photographs also. Almost all of them are of a new generation. Some Ugandans have mooted the idea that Museveni may be grooming a successor, but he himself and those closest to him have regarded the idea as pure speculative, and there is no evidence to show the contrary. Among the named ambassadors appointed by President Museveni are two long-standing personal friends by the name of Ambassador Majam Black and Ambassador Betty Bigombe. The two are included in my latest publication, The Woman I Have Loved. They are both women of intellect and integrity. About the same time as she was appointed envoy, Betty Bigombe also accepted our invitation to be one of the directors of the Kanyeihamba Foundation, which stands for Truth, Justice, Transparency, Accountability, and is a symbol of national conscience, which in Runyachitara language means Ubuntu, and when translated in Luo language, it means Dano. President Museveni and I are in the same age bracket. It should be legitimate right and necessary that Ugandans should now be discussing the urgent matter of succession and date of transition of Yoweri Museveni in this term. Ndoza tutandikirawo.
Where there is a will, corruption shall surely be defeated.
Definitely. Tunajjukira nti mu mwaka gwa 1986 Mwami Museveni yalangirira olutalo ku government ya President Milton Obote. Actually 1980 Museveni yali mu UPM nga yagikulira n'omukulu Matayo. Museveni we bamukuba akalulu nga yeesimbyewo yagaana okukkiriza ebyava mu kulonda. N'agamba nti agenzeewa mu nsiko. Kyaddaaki amawulire gaasaasaana era Kanyeihamba mu katabo kanene ke bayita The Defeat of President Museveni ku page ya 19 narratinganga omukulu Ruhakana Rugunda we yamusaba awandiika ategeeze ensi yonna when he was in New York at the London University nti akabinja k'abantu 25 Kalumbye bagenze mu kibira. Katonda yamusaasira n'awangula olutalo we yawangula olutalo mu 1986 oluvannyuma lw'emyaka 5 n'alangirira olutalo olwokubiri. Olwasooka lwali kufuga bbi, obulyake, obukenuzi, buli kibi kyonna ekyali kyesibye ku gavumenti ya President Milton Obote. Museveni kye kyamutwala mu nsiko. Kyenva olaba we yawangula olutalo mu 1986 olutalo lwe yasooka okulangirira lwali enguzi. Kuba enguzi yali crippling the public services in public offices at the time in 1980. Naye ekyenjawulo ekiriwo otunula mu katabo kaneno ndowooza Farida gwaba tusomera emabega kooti esembayo egamba nti all cuts.
Ndowooza yasooka ddala wano kirabyewa nti all cats have 4 legs.
Yes.
My dog has 4 legs. There are 4. My dog is a cat.
Yes, inti all cats have 4 legs. My dog has 4 legs. Therefore my dog is a cat. Inti kapa webe ina amagulu 4 nembwa ina amagulu 4 tewali njawulo kapa nembwa bifaanagana. So Norwecho, Professor Kanyeihamba kyagezaayo okujjayo mu kana akatabo, which I think it's a must-have copy by every young person. Kiri nti Museveni's government, or Museveni and Milton Obote, are inseparable. Obote was corrupt. He ruled with impunity. He ruled with a strong arm and militarism. But Museveni is more worse than Milton Obote.
Museveni who was on several occasions announced a war against impunity, war against criminality,
corruption.
War
We had
against
corruption work in
a war against actually almost every injustice. Museveni has announced a war against it. So when you say that it's more worse than Obote, abantu oyiza okubanga Museveni omuwaayiriza.
Njagala tuddeyo mu katabo. Njagala tuddeyo mu kana akatabo kennyini. Kuba waneeno
abatala abalungi bye twogera bibiva mu katabo kono si ayinza okubanga Nabuyanda alinamu endowooza ng'omuntu naye byonna biri mu katabo kano Professor yabiwandiise kuba Professor Kanyeihamba yakolako ne Museveni kuva mu mwaka gw'ekinaana.
But people change. You see, I might work with you today and corrupt. As time goes on, I discover I was doing wrong and I change along the way because currently Professor Kanyeihamba doesn't work with the president.
But still, byomanyiko ebbanga inakola naawe niwe nkyuka ogamba however much Arnold yakyuka but here this true Arnold.
You see, njagala tukkaanye. I want us to disagree to agree and agree to disagree.
Yeah.
Kyoyogera kituufu abantu bakyuka. Wetumala waneeno njagala tusomeyo paragraph 2 okuva waneeno. Then tugende tulabe chapter gye bayita the who exactly is YK Museveni. Kuba abantu abasinga bonna woyogera ku Museveni nga omulyake, omukenuzi, eyajja okubba ndowooza bayibuli gwe
yajja kubba kutana
kuzikiriza bayibuli gwe Museveni sitaani so
awatala bulungi Museveni is a human being. Museveni is not Satan.
Yes, in the Bible statement
in the spiritual
and that's a disclaimer.
Yeah, actually I agree with Professor Kanyeihamba. And the media you should be agreeing because at this particular time to spark the debate mukiriziganye naffe omanyi corona yajja corona we yajja fronts zonna ezisinga yazizingamya
true.
So wazizingamya we are in a time where you the media personalities hold a very classified role in shaping and determining current affairs. Actually, you're the fourth arm of government. So when nandibadde mbabuuza, why is it that the anti-corruption work, the IGG reports ezifuluma buli mwaka, they have not been effective as the media? It is because of fear. Chimala Professor Kanyeihamba Gambi in the succession story, a chapter de tubaddeko, it is time we run out of fear. We stand on our feet. I think Obote was more worse than... Actually, though Museveni is more worse than Obote, but Obote was worse at a certain point. Tiyaine bibalua. Budi yagezangako okwogera. Chimula Professor Kanyeihamba tuleted example ya Robert Mugabe. Ne... Kamuzubanda. Bonna bayise teka. Whoever talks about succession, it is a criminal offense. And some of the activists wrote books. We have my freedom of speech published.
Why do you feel it is the right time for Uganda to start debating about the succession plan?
It's okay today. We come back to that. This is what he says on page 15. Impeccable evidence revealed that from time to time, the perpetrators of corruption were known, vibrant and cunning. There was the first 17-day report on police corruption. 2, the Kanyeihamba's reports, one on tourism and the other on the judiciary. There was also the Kwiringa's report on gorilla hunting permits and the Chogam report. In each of these reports, corruption was the issue and culprits were named. The controlling authorities and President Museveni chose to do nothing about those reports and ignored the recommendations made thereunder. 6. There was also the Ogoda report and the Makerere students killing incident, as well as the Kanyeihamba's report of the International Conference on Uganda Islamic Leadership Crisis. All in all, these were largely ignored. The general effect of all this was to show that all was not well with Museveni's government and supporters, and the country was badly losing the war against corruption in spectacular war. Honorable Bart Katurebe, Chief Justice of Uganda, revealed that one of his High Court judges is corrupt and should be investigated with a view to removing him from office. The Chief Justice was supported by a report published in the New Vision at the time, besides the named by Justice Kanyeihamba and the judiciary itself. The judiciary had at that time received complaints affecting 100 judicial officers, including judges, magistrates and registrars, who are all being investigated. I was interviewed by the Uganda Judicial Service Commission on my report. Sadly, none of these reports or evidence has ever been acted upon. This is clear evidence that the NRM government is not interested or concerned about the war against corruption. In fact, latest developments indicate that corruption has become a justification for appointment of public office under the NRM party rule. All the evidence and incidents in this publication prove beyond reasonable doubt that President Museveni has been defeated in the war against corruption. Mubuziza tubadde ne anti-corruption walk. Netubera ne nakalema. You see, I want us to go back to history. When you look at Uganda's history, before 1980, we did not have the IGG department. We did not have the anti-corruption unit of State House. We did not have the likes of any anti-corruption fighting arm. Ekyo kyekyenjawulo Museveni kye yasingako ku Obote. Nti Museveni eyaliwo ekiseera ekyo for God and my country yali asaza. He was a brilliant man. He was an ideal man and the right man for the job. But if the two meet right now, omu atakuba munne essasi.
Ndowooza ono wakakati akongojulating oli n'amugamba bwe balo kunkwasa kati bali okulembera bubi kati kankulaga ensi bw'etambula.
So Abaganda bagamba Tamale azaala lutaakomi. President Museveni mu 1986 tulabye ng'alangirira olutalo. He declared war against corruption after Obote. Because the biggest war that had crippled public service was corruption and abuse of office. So to him, to first of all wage war against corruption and abuse of office was the #1 strategy to recover Uganda. Era tulaba waneeno nti wotunira mu byafaayo byaffe 86 nojja mu 9 myaka gy'ekyenda ba Professor Kanyeihamba bwe bakolera constitution be baleeta ekirowoozo nti let us bring anti-corruption fighting arms, anti-corruption apps. They bring the IGG first in our history. Tulaba baleese IGG department. Secondly, when you're to woddayo emabega waneeno mu katabo, the first strategy Museveni thought for a landlocked country like Uganda was to promise that Uganda Airlines would forever be flying in the air. And we would at least have 6 fuel reservoirs. All these have been crippled by corruption. Himself, we all watched the anti-corruption day celebrations at Kololo. Betty Kamyavayo n'agamba Mwami Museveni IGG gye mwagamba tuleete mu myaka gy'ekyenda 86. I think we should start carrying out, because when you look at the IGG Act, it gives powers to the IGG and her deputies or his deputies. First of all, jurisdiction. It covers police, it covers the UPDF, it covers local government, it covers the executive cabinet, it covers the legislature, not limited to that. So, part of their methods, when they detected Farid Onali Namwakatu, Betty Kamya, the Honorable, has all powers and mandate to investigate you, whether to audit your life or do what or do what or do what. But Kanyeihamba is showing us on page 15 and page 16 that these audits, these investigations have been in place. Simpya. Obwekitegeera zibaddewo Kwiringa carried out a report. The most popular Kanyeihamba carried out reports. The most popular Rendeire carried out reports on public universities, specifically Makerere University. And in those reports, fenna waneeno tewali musiru. When you carry out a report, ng'ovudde ku byaffe ebyekityo bye twaloopanga nti maama Arnold anyimye aganye okumpa ku nnyama nga bwe twankava mu Ssekukkulu. In these reports, there must be recommendations. But they have never been adopted. Chikulagachi. Chinua Achebe suggests that when things fall apart, the center cannot hold.
Yeah.
This is what we are seeing. Inti Betty Kamya wagamba nti tuyina ababbi ba ssente bazibba and they live beyond their life, their limits. It's on record. And
achogera, but even her predecessor ngani agamba nti ababbi bwe tubakwatako balina ekubo gye baddukira ababbi beekweka eno.
Museveni ye akugamba era yakigamba ne Betty Kamya nti tobakwatako wona abakwatako bajja kudduka sente bazirire.
Babbi balungi bainvestinga wano waka singa babadde bazibba nga baswala wabweri wa ggwanga awo twali balumbyeyo naye tobakwatako.
Wali Bayibuli ekugambye nti omubbi yajja kutta kunyaga na kuzikiriza. So in this context we tuba borrowing a phrase omubbi wajja kyabazze okukola either atwala essimu eno at all costs
ate bwagitwala
nzita anodi oba simutta naye ng'essimu njirina
ate bwagitwala amera sure nti line agicrashinga buli kimu kyonna kyonna azikiriza.
Definitely look at our public health. There is a book I was recently reading last week bakayita The Patient. I don't know if you've come.
Dr. Kobusinje.
Yeah, Dr. Kobusinje. When you look at The Patient, actually, you know, otandika okaaba nga teri akkubye. Kuba byayogerako bya bulijjo. Ate ekireese kino corruption. Go to the courts, the judiciary. When Kanyeihamba Gambi, the Chief Justice, instructed him to carry out a report, investigation on certain individuals in the judiciary that were corrupt. He carried out a report, n'aleeta report into mukama wange. Bibino byenzudde. But Katulebe n'amugamba why omukulu si musanyufu. So buli omu ali mu kutya. Kuba essaawa eno Museveni ayina kuba tuli mirembe esatu tulina omulembe gw'aba Museveni abaagaana okukaddiwa. Ne tubeera n'omulembe gw'aba kitaffe n'omulembe gwaffe abavubuka. So Museveni ayina guno omulembe gw'aba obumu ku bongo obusinga okutegeera ku mulembe gw'aba kitaffe. But ekibagaana okukola kye balina okukola kutya. So in such an incident into the center tekyakwatirira, Prime Minister avuddeyo n'agamba nti in my office corruption has crippled public service. Actually here Kanyeihamba on page 29, he writes about the Minister Chiwanuka of Lands, where Minister Chiwanuka actually confesses that the land registry is a den of thieves. So all services, all sectors have been crippled by this disease called corruption, by this war called corruption. Museveni lwe yalangirira mu 86 emyaka giri ana kati olutalo lw'omulemye. So when things have fallen apart, the center is no longer holding. We must go back to Chinyusi. The answer is Museveni to give us a Christmas gift.
Oh.
Atubuulire di lwetumusikiza agenda di.
And do you think that is possible?
Before even being possible, can a democratically okay, democracy for us in Uganda tugamba kalulu, leaving all issues and allegations and claims, we to government, okay, democratically elected president. You want a democratically elected president. Akere kumacha agambe nti banange bwenvangawo nkoma leero kukola encha kabuyanda gwakikwatamu obwise bwa kabaka nti kabaka bwa kadiwa nekyasobola holdinga ajja kuyita omwana we amutuuzeeko.
You know ebintu bibiri kansooke nzeewo wano kuba singa nze mbyogera bannayuganda bandigambye mwana muto amanyiki naye ndi teyaliiwo naye abaganda baabiraba ne bagera olugero nti negozadde akuba engoma n'obiibya. So katusooke tudde mu bigambo bya Kanyeihamba byajja ku mwami Museveni kuba ye awangadde naye, then ndyoke ndeeta ekyange. There is no comparing evidence that the Muhoozi project exists, nor to look page 96, second paragraph. There is no comparing evidence that the Muhoozi project exists, nor is President Museveni shopping publicly for his successor. In fact, he is on record as having said that political succession in Uganda is not for him or other leaders, but the role of Ugandans themselves. Inti Museveni kino kyagezaako okwogera ne tudda ne mu democracy gogambye nti ssemateeka waffe agamba nti all power belongs to the people and it should be exercised in accordance with this constitution. Komawo wano Museveni naye akonfirmize no position n'agamba nti ebyokusalawo ani ansikira oba ani asikira ani biri mu baki biri mu Bannayuganda. It is on record 70% of Ugandans or 70% of the women that die in public hospitals come from third world families. These cannot afford Nakasero, but go to a public hospital. Which public hospital? Omusawo taliwo. Newaba gyali ebyokozesebwa tebiriwo. Teri ddagala. Ate n'abo abaliyo ku zi health center mu kyalo deep down e Namutumba, omusawo agenda kugamba mpa emitwalo 2. Omusajja n'agamba kangende ntunda ebinyeebwa nzireete. Ogenda oleeta emitwalo 2 nga bagamba tasobodde kusukka waawo. 2 is the biggest percentage of Ugandans dwelling in slums cannot afford education.
True.
And corona abyonoonye, because today teenage pregnancy is standing at 92% by statistics. These are reports carried out by Museveni's agencies. These are reports that are carried out by independent bodies like UNICEF. Inti corona weyajja Museveni n'agamba nali nabaguumaaliza mu masomero ne kano kannemye, we subjected our children to teenage pregnancy. Corona bwazze, the rule of law has been abused and we are living in a rule by law state. Inti essaawa eno recently oli covid yasooka, essaawa eno bali modernize kuba nalabye bagazetinga etteeka nti oba toyambadde mask mu public places osasula emitwalo 2 oba emyezi 6. But yasooka people went to Chitali under no law, but because the president has given a directive where we were not under a state of emergency under Article 101. Oba ntegeera bulungi. So wogattako ebirala byonna I believe kuba kano akakukuuli kaba the corrupt people abaganyuddwamu munene, simanyi oba oliddeko mmeka.
Balidde zange. The Defeat of President Museveni. Kanakatabo kalungi. It's interesting. Go and now. Kasoba mwe Uganda, whether the opposition oba oli wa NRM oba tena kibiina oba kasoba mwe Uganda. This book is so interesting and educating. Kaina information. Teri one-sided. So, katukeza kutunulira tufunye omukisa nti Professor Kanyeihamba atulekedde literature tetumubanja ye alivinze obulamu bwe purposeful era ebisinga byonna twali agadde tubifunye biri mu literature. Naye kamutukize tuwumulemu ko katono nnyo tufune kulendula amalombe tukyagenda mu maaso n'ebikobere Farida n'omugenyi waffe Nabuyanda John Solomon nange mukose Anthony.
Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Are you guys ready? Okay, let's serve Uganda. As promised, we deliver. We are redefining the social media narrative, asking tough questions and holding your leaders accountable. We are non-partisan and break down having a conversation with Uganda.
We are the Mighty Drive. We hold debates that give you viable solutions. We bring to you people that Ivora is wanting to listen to. We are gender sensitive and give space to the unheard voices. Not forgetting the quote of the day.
We are live on our social media platforms, The Alternative Uganda on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter from Monday to Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Don't miss the debate behind the wheels and studios.
I am Edgar Matthew Karuhanga.
And Princess Luwe Delidian.
Expect in-depth analysis, credible, factual, and authentic information. We are the Alternative Dig Talk.
Real issues, real talk.
Jembadde itaita nsanza abasajja nga bagamba lwaki abala batukuula Farida lwaki mukuula abasajja
omusajja baba tebamukudde asanyuka busanyusi n'akuwa ssente kati bw'alaba nga tafunye kyayagala n'alowooza mbu wamukudde aba yazikuwadde oba tewamukudde.
Okay, Lydian, lwaki mwagala abasajja abakulu?
Nabo batwagala naye fetubagala lwakuba nti batutegekera future.
Okay, tutegekera future wakiise. For more insightful topics, yes, keep it the Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk. Remember, Snap Talk airs every Saturday right from 6 to 7 with your girl Teddy Tenjo, but I never come alone. I come with the two beautiful girls.
Princess.
Meanwhile, we have a new home. I'm super excited. What do you think of our new home, Farida?
I love it.
I just love everything.
Yes, let's keep it the Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
It is still limited drive. We are going up to 9 a.m. I am Farida. I'm with Solomon and Mokosei Arnold Anthony. Katabo ka Professor George Wilson Kanyeihamba, kali titled The Defeat of President Museveni. Whoever wants a copy or jakasanga mo bookshops around town, its price is really affordable, 40,000 shillings. You can have this copy at 45,000 shillings. Nga okanonyezako mo bookshops around town. Wetugendedde mukumulamuko nga omukulu Nabuyanda atugamba nti bamama abafa beba batasobola ku affordinga mitwalo ebiri nga bagenda okuzaala obaba abatali mu affording education abali mu slums. But those people do not even know the idea of you people saying President Museveni can even be voted out of power, or they don't even know that they can sit and debate, and a debate could lead a president to leave power. And there are those same people that you are saying they are the majority and their ideas or their contribution matters. I really want to ask Nabuyanda atutunyonyole mu bulungi abantu abo mugenda kuba mubatuseeko matya mubategeezeza information, because they lack information. They are not informed at all. One, they didn't go to school. They don't understand anything. And the things of governance need someone who can articulate issues. They can sit and conceptualize issues. So if these people are the majority and they are the ones that matter, how are we going to involve them?
Ekisoka, first of all, I will give an example. Ngansinzira ku a true story and one of the best leaders that has lived in the world. That is Jesus Christ. When Jesus Christ came, yatema ekkubo. Bw'atema ekkubo n'amanya nti akaseera bwe kalituuka ndiddayo ewa kitange kuba ogwange gwe yantuma gujja bba guwedde. N'amanya nti nina okuteekerateekera akaseera ako. And that time he started recruiting apostles. N'agenda ku bavubi n'abagamba mujje, I'm going to make you fishers of men.
The same way Museveni fished
Nabanja.
The Nabanja and the other ministers.
And others. N'agenda ku basawo, the most educated, the Kanyeihambas of those days, Baluk, Nabagamba, you come.
By John Luther Cheng.
Yabo, you come. Naba recruiting. We are recruiting. Some of these disciples remained on the right track. Others, bava kumugendo. The likes of Judas Iscariot, the likes of Simon Peter, Nabalala. The common factor here is mentorship and preparation. Jesus Christ gave to these disciples. And the irony is, inti, bano abalala abaga no kolachi, bano abalala abawugoka, nebava kumugendo, bonna baasanawo. Judas Iscariot bamusanga mu kibangirizi. Simon Peter ne bamusanga mu kibangirizi. Teyasukka waawo. So, Mwami Museveni, ye yagaana okonaringa principles of good leadership. That is a fact. He has waged up wars. So far there are 3. Esooka is the war against corruption. But all the signs and symptoms from the fight, ziraga he has been defeated by this war against corruption. So what happens is, tuwereddwa omukisa inti tufunye etabaaza. We've gotten light from some of the disciples of Mr. Museveni, like Mwami Kanyeihamba. Because when you read this book on page, let's read one paragraph only from page, I think it's page 5. Yeah, page 4. In his old age years of his life, Professor Kanyeihamba has written critically and movingly about President Yoweri Kaguta Tibuhaburwa Museveni. This is no mean achievement. The main point I want to make here is Mumiaka Jemikade, because Kanyeihamba has run his race. He's now 82 years in this struggle. But even in his old age, Tanapoa, he is still fighting. He's still on the move. On the move. Yeah. The likes of Paul Kawanga Semogiri, Dr. Kiza Besije, have actually, because they are from the other generation, so we are now the young people that are exerting this space and pressing these buttons hard. So time is going to come and they will actually leave, because no, actually
then that means
the time is
we
now.
Still have a lot of years.
Because Jesus did all that in 3 years.
3 years.
Because he was guided by the Holy Spirit.
The time is now. The mantle is here.
The time is now for who?
The time is now for us to spark the discussion on when is General Museveni.
Do you believe, Solomon, you as you, do you believe the debates that you will hold will oust President Museveni from power?
Today ku kibuuzo kye wabuuzizza, abantu b'omu Katanga bamanya batya. Bobi Wine yava mu ghetto. Naye essaawa eno alina omukululo
Bobi Wine yava mu ghetto. He's a ghetto kid who went to school.
He's
not a ghetto kid.
Naye baaseka we tuba tutunuulidde Bobi Wine, tetunuulira Bobi Wine ng'omuntu. Kuba abasinga omugenderako ba mu ghetto.
But even President Museveni,
n'ennyimba ze abaziwuliriza ba mu ghetto.
Even President Museveni, his history, it doesn't come in a fine family. Fendu labi obufaananyi nga Mzee Amos akayumba nga Museveni akawamba nga amazima. Bwakalaga Museveni olwaleero Tyson akikkiriza.
Nti gye yava. Anti that is the irony. Nti bonna enkululo ze basika tebasomye. But they give them a reason. All the reasons are in here. All the reasons are in here. We've looked at the various reports. Have they been effectful?
How are you involving these people in the ghettos?
How we are involving them. You see essaawa eno kizibu nnyo okgendewo omulema n'omugamba oli mulema. Kizibu nnyo okgendewo omuzibe.
Naye ate ge gaba amazima.
Kizibu nnyo okgendewo omuzibe n'omugamba nti ndi muzibe. Already baba bakimanyi nti ndi mulema, ndi muzibe. But they lack the motivation. They lack the guidance.
Okay. Solomon, apart from Museveni ajagenda, Museveni agende, we are removing a dictator. How better can you educate, enlighten, sensitize, discuss critical issues with omuntu wa wansi? My brother in Mayuge down there ngati yasoma byomuga ebya yes no stupid come tabitegeera.
Actually ajja kusekerera omugamba stupid.
Kati how do you better sensitize that person okujja ku pesi yemu nawe asomye bino n'obitegeera?
Olaba essaawa eno nze nafunye kopi zange 10
of this book.
Era mbadde ntambula eyo mu ghetto, mu malwaliro, on all platforms, n'ez'abeyita ba civilized people. Ne bwe ntuula okulya ekikomando nzigyayo akatabo kange ne mbibavuunuulira mu lulimi lwe basinga otegeera. Kyenvulaba on this show I've been using 2 languages, English and Luganda, because I know the viewers of the Mighty Drive are diverse.
Exactly.
They range from all platforms. I'm sure Museveni might even be watching as well. Go home get to watching. Or watch together. So on such platforms we are engaging. And ekikulu essaawa eno. Kyakugamba muvubuka oyo ali mu ghetto. Inti ekimala kikola ki? Kimala. Tunaafa tugenda kufa paka ddi. Bajjajjaffe bafudde nga teri malagala mu malwaliro. Bannyaffe bafudde teri malagala mu malwaliro. Naffe tufe n'abaana baffe bafe kintu kyekimu. So we are a generation that must set the bar and define the cause, as Museveni did in 86. But before we define that cause, we need to understand who exactly is Mwami Museveni. Kyenvola banjagala tujje mu katabo
page 65. Nga gundi professor abuuza oba nga tulaga Museveni omutuufu oba Museveni mwennyini yaliwa. Who exactly is Waike Museveni? Ate okumanya nga professor was so keen tiyagambi Tibuhaburwa is specific because abasinga Tibuhaburwa tumutegedde aliwo mashi yazaliwe Tibuhaburwa naye tuyitegedde mu kulonda kuno.
Soko owulire wakugamba nti until the presidential elections of 2021 Museveni was always billed and known as Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. In the 2021 presidential elections, Museveni added another name to his names, Tibuhaburwa. In Runyachitara languages of Western Uganda, the name Tibuhaburwa means he who cannot be advised. All principled and good leaders are those who are regarded and believed to be also servant of the people. A leader who brags that is not a servant of anyone forfeits the right to be called a leader and should retire or be booted out. I first heard about and met Yoweri Museveni at Makerere University around 1968-69 when I had just been recruited by Makerere University together with the late Professor Joseph Kakwoza to found and establish the Department of Law. There was no teaching of law courses at Makerere at that time. Those wishing to study law went to Dar es Salaam University, London or elsewhere in the Commonwealth, where law qualifications were taught and awarded. It will be recalled that I was recruited from England, where I was teaching law, to return home and help to found a school of law in Uganda. At the time, Godfrey Binayisa was the Attorney General in the UPC government and had travelled all the way to UK to seek, among his other missions, my recruitment. Pending the establishment of the Department of Law at Makerere University, I was temporarily deployed at the then only law training center in Samizi in Entebbe, where courses leading to the call to the English bar by the Inns of Court of London were conducted. In the end, when we founded the Department of Law, It became part of the Faculty of Social Sciences of Makerere University, of which the late renowned orator and writer Professor Ali Mazrui was the respected and elected Dean of the Faculty of Social Sciences, as well as the head of Political Science Department of the university. The Department of Political Science at Makerere was made famous worldwide mainly by the presence and charisma of Professor Ali Mazrui and international scholars. Makerere and that department in particular attracted visitors and resource persons to hold public debates and seminars. There was a vibrant university debating society led and facilitated by the Faculty of Social Sciences. From time to time, the society invited eminent and prominent persons to participate in its debate. While I was registrar, legal affairs of the university, a young radical student about my age was among those invited to participate in these debates. A young radical student about my age was among those invited to participate in these debates.
To highlighting radical.
And young.
And young. About my age. Kanyeihamba's age. So if Kanyeihamba is 82 now, Museveni must be 22 now, depending on this.
Yes.
It turned out to be Yoweri Museveni, who was introduced as a revolutionary socialist, who was also training in military science and tactics. He was billed as a student of Marxism, admirer and darlings of the left.
When you turn again, here I also highlight the word also training. It was training, meaning like freeing eyanjula nti am training militarism. Naye olwaleero ne wawulira bubulizi nti Museveni olwaleero training by then he brags around being a trainee
in military
science and techniques. Olwaleero training wayisinganyiza na training obanga agamba nti okulya obuli by osmosis bwakuyiseemu n'obuwamba gw'osibya kitalya.
Ate kooti teyasindise beteebereza just nearly to be associated with any militarism. They are in Chitali as terrorists today.
I
was curious to listen to what he had to say in the debate. I therefore attended and listened to him. He struck me then as a sincere reformer of the Uganda system of governance at the time and a selector of the best principles and methods of work from the disciplined communist and radical leaders of the world. He was quite impressive with his vision and definition of democratic socialism that sounded ideal and suitable for Uganda. I remarked to the friends with whom we had listened to the debate and said that Museveni is destined to be among the leaders of Uganda generation of which we are part. In between and later, I learned that Yoweri Museveni had been wandering in the political wilderness, restlessly looking for a political home, which as I write, he has not yet found. He joined UPC party and worked for it as a research assistant, but he was soon tired of it and joined the DP party, as late Muzeyi Boniface Byanima, one of Museveni's mentors, once told me. Subsequently, he and others founded a radical group mainly of students and named it FRONASA. In pursuing its objectives, Yoweri is believed to have traveled far and wide in countries led by radical communists, government leaders. Where he didn't travel, he managed to get reading materials from there. During his early days, President Museveni was an inspiring leader. He browsed through many publications on militarism and governance. He was inspired by the writings and philosophies of the leaders of China, Soviet Union, as it then was North Korea, Libya, and Cuba. He studied and appreciated the political systems obtaining in these communist countries. At the same time, all along he dreamt, desired, and longed to rule an African country one day. Having weighed options brought up and growing in Kigezi district, he zeroed on Uganda. He was initially reluctant to join in Moshi Unity Conference of Uganda, exiles in 1979, but with Mwalimu Nyerere of Tanzania preempting and supporting that meeting, Yoweri Museveni and Fornasa participated fully in that conference. Following Moshi, YK Museveni was elected deputy chairperson of the Military Commission of UNLF. Although led by Yusuf Lule, UNLF was dominated and controlled by the UPC factions led by Paulo Muwanga and the army strongman General Oite Ojok. When the Military Commission overthrew the UNLF government under Yusuf Lule, many of Lule's former ministers such as Yoweri Museveni, George Kanyeihamba, Andrew Kayira and Yoweri Chesimira did not join or agree to join the military government which replaced Yusuf Lule. However, UNLF had promised to hold elections at the end of its 2-year tenure term. This provided Museveni with another opportunity to fight for the leadership of Uganda. He, friends and associates formed the Uganda Patriotic Movement, UPM. It attracted the radical elements from the Uganda political parties and other groups, especially the young people. In the 1981 parliamentary elections, UPM participated and managed to win only one seat, that of Honorable Dr. Crispus Chiyonga. As leader of UPM, YK Museveni stood in an Ankole constituency for parliament, and he was defeated by a DP candidate Sam Kutesa, later to become one of the longest serving cabinet ministers in the NRM government. Following the disputed general elections and results of the 1981, the UPM, Museveni and other political parties which were participating in those elections rejected the results. Museveni had promised that if those elections turned out to be unfair and manipulated, he would reject them and fight for democracy and freedom for the people of Uganda. I was among the first people in the UK to receive the news that Museveni and some 25 other Ugandan freedom fighters had commenced a civil war and were fighting and were battling it out with the Milton Obote regime and army to liberate the country from dictatorship. Within hours of commencing the war, I received an instant message from Ndugu Ruhakana Rugunda asking me to inform the whole world by publishing in the press and media that the leader of UPM is now leading an army of liberators to defeat forces of depression in Uganda with view to establishing a democratic and pro-people government. I complied with Ndugu's request, and the world came to know that Uganda were at war with one another. In my book, Constitutional and Political History of Uganda from 1894 to the present, I narrate what and how that civil war was conducted and ended. During that war, the behavior and acts of Yoweri Museveni and his comrades gained international recognitions and praise as exemplary in terms of internal conflicts. The heroism of Museveni and his fellow fighters and the courage of Ugandans who shielded them were quite impressive. From hundreds of volunteers, the National Resistance Army, which was waging war against Idi Amin regime, increased from tens to hundreds and hundreds of thousands of fighters. Correspondingly, the regime's support in Kampala and elsewhere in the country was slowly dwindling and eventually evaporated. Strips of power and support, Milton Obote, many of his ministers and soldiers fled from Uganda. It took a short time for the combined forces of Tanzania, NRA and UFM to mop up and remove the last vestiges of the regime. Before the defeat of Idi Amin and his terrorist regime, the NRA was headed by Yusuf Lule, with Y. Museveni as his deputy when Lule died. There was a problem as whether he should be succeeded by his confidant, Dr. Samson Chiseka, who also hailed from Buganda Kingdom, or by young radical YK Museveni, who hailed from Chigezi district. Eria Katengaya invited me to join him in London, and we, together with the late ambassadors Ben Matogo, Ernest Lusita, and Joseph Tamusange, among others, met and campaigned for the elections of YK Museveni, who was then commanding the combined fighters against the regime, and urged the movement supporters to acclaim Museveni as the successor to Lule and leader of the NRA. It is at this meeting that I was asked and gave advice on political succession, which I did and was accepted and acted upon by that meeting. That is how Yoweri Museveni ended up being the president of the Republic of Uganda. With defeat and flight of the regime, Yoweri Museveni was sworn in and became president of Uganda in January 25, 1986. Ugandans and the world sipped as a show of relief as Museveni addressed Ugandans and said that his was not a mere change of guards but a fundamental change. Dr. Samson Chiseka became the Prime Minister of Uganda. At the time, everyone thought that Uganda's political problems had ended. Sadly, not so. Following the assumption of power by President Museveni, he traveled and attended the African Heads of State and Government Summit in Addis Ababa. At the summit meeting, Museveni castigated and mocked African leaders who overstay in power and office. Ugandans and the world believed him then, and Africa welcomed his statement. Unfortunately, even then, Museveni was not being sincere with Africa, to the consternation of everyone. It is now 40 years since the commencement of civil war in Uganda, and Museveni is still in power and has become one of the longest serving presidents the world has ever had or known. Museveni and his government planned and authorized the making of the Uganda Constitution of 1995. The government insisted that the delegates to make that constitution should be democratically and directly elected by the people of Uganda. The Constituent Assembly consisted of smaller geographical units to maximize representation of people in that assembly. It was also decided that the assembly should include adequate numbers of representatives of special groups such as women, soldiers, workers, youth, and the disabled. That was not all in that representation. Political party affiliation was recognized. Traditional and cultural interests were taken into account in the making of the Uganda Constitution. Upon its promulgation, Museveni hailed it and said, "This is the best constitution Ugandans have ever made. I will go in the bush once more if anyone or group of people interfere with it." The constitution allowed the president to have a tenure of office for only 2 terms of office of 5 years each. As those terms were coming to an end, President Museveni begged the nation to give him 1 more term to complete his program. Ugandans obliged by extending his rule for another 5 years. As that term was coming to an end, and knowing fully well that the people would not extend these terms again, he attempted to persuade the then cabinet to do him that favor, and cabinet refused. He then summoned members of his party to a meeting and bulldozed a resolution through and removed term limits from the constitution. He then sacked all the cabinet ministers who had opposed the amendment in cabinet. These included powerful figures such as his heir apparent, first deputy prime minister, and long-standing close friends, Eria Katengaya another heavyweight NRM ideologist and Minister of East African Regional Affairs, Amanya Mushega, a Buganda regional political heavyweight, Jaberi Bidandi Sali, not to mention the well-known women's rights fighter, Dr. Miria Matembe. In order to make sure that the removal of term limits would be achieved without a hitch, the NRM party dished out a bribe of 5 million shillings per MP of those who went through the lobby and voted for the amendment. When analyzed, this act evolving around of that removal of term limits, another deal was being prepared and was passed almost at the same time. This law is known as the Presidential Elections Act 2005. When analyzed, this act is identical to the provisions of Article 104 of the Constitution, except for one small poisonous provision, namely Paragraph A, subsection 6 of Section 59 of the Presidential Elections Act 2005. This provision is enigma to the administration of justice and is negation of what is just and fair, and is certainly in conflict with the provisions of Article 104 of the Constitution of Uganda. In our view, this paragraph should be expunged from the laws of Uganda. Since the coming into power of the NRM government and for successive parliament, I was always invited as a resource person to enlighten members of parliament and sensitize them about their status, role, functions, and duties, privileges, and immunities. The series of written opinions which I delivered at Parliament should be readily available in parliamentary archives and papers. Addressing one of these parliaments, the 6th, I remarked that the ordinary common people play very little or no role in the governance of our country. We are often led by the leadership of our political parties or constituencies, who, having made the decisions themselves, invite the masses to simply do what they are told. This exchange between an MP and me was taken up by the media and reported upon in one of the newspapers circulating nationwide. President Museveni had traveled up country and was not present when I addressed Parliament, but when he read in newspapers what I had said, he was not happy. When reporter asked what he thought of Kanyeihamba's opinion, President Museveni's responses made huge headlines in both New Vision and Daily Monitor. I had gone to Mbarara to address an NGO meeting at Lakeview Hotel in Mbarara. That was on a Friday. As I had my breakfast on Saturday morning, the hotel receptionist alerted me to the headlines of that newspaper of that day. In New Vision, the headline screamed, "Kanyeihamba is unfit to be a judge," said the president. The headline in Daily Monitor was headed, "Kanyeihamba must be disciplined." Each screaming headline was followed by a story by which President Museveni is alleged to have said. Apparently, annoyed by my remarks, he had said that I had been rude to voters who are our masters because they elect us to office and give us power. Kanyeihamba is arrogant and is despising people whom we serve, and they are our masters. I will make sure that he is disciplined. He is unfit to be a judge. Shortly after my breakfast, I was surrounded by members of the press, daring me to resign and remarking that the president had lost confidence in me and I should quit as a judge. I'm not easily threatened or ruffled out even by the mighty president. I only fear God, but I am ruffled by untruths. When one of the reporters asked me what I would do now, I calmly responded, if President Museveni believes that I am unfit to be a judge, he knows what to do. I am not the one to advise him. I was scheduled to spend another night at Lakeview Hotel in Mbarara, and I did. Early that night, a group of Banyankole men youth knocked at my door and came into my room. They then explained that they had heard the president denouncing me. They believed my life was in danger and had come to protect and escort me to flee the country safely through the Rwanda border. I was really touched by their concern, but I thanked them and said that I know Museveni well, and I don't believe that he will harm me, nor would I resign from my post as a judge. In the evening, I listened to a radio interview in which Mzee Francis Gurume, a veteran opinion maker and contributor, was asked what he thought about President Museveni's outburst against Justice Kanyeihamba. Mzee Gurume said, I think Museveni is becoming careless. I have learned that Justice Kanyeihamba has traveled to Mbarara to address a meeting there. Supposing Kanyeihamba met an accident on his way back and dies, how would Museveni explain or defend himself that he was not responsible for Kanyeihamba's death? Sunday morning, I had breakfast in the hotel dining room. I fetched my suitcase and it was placed in the car boot. As my vehicle left the hotel, we saw an unmarked car following us at a safe distance. When we stopped at a petrol station in the center of Mbarara, the same vehicle which had been following us stopped at a distance. My driver had fuel filled in and oil checked. As we left, we saw that same car following us. About 5 miles from Mbarara, we were still being followed. My police escort told the driver to stop so that he could check the people who were following us. The car passed us without stopping. We decided to forget about it. However, it continued going at such a speed that we would not overtake it. In Masaka municipality, we diverted to Gaston Hotel to have lunch. We relaxed at the hotel for about an hour, and when we resumed our journey from the hotel, the same car which was following us earlier was parked near the entrance of the hotel. We drove on towards Kampala. We branched off at the junction going to Nabuyanda College, where I had to deliver a message to the principal on a student. As we branched off, the pursuing vehicle passed us and drove on. With my mission at the college accomplished, an hour later, we emerged from Nabuyanda Junction and joined the Masaka-Kampala main road. Parked from Nabuyanda exit, our companion car was waiting for us and it followed us again on our way to Kampala. By that time, we already established that besides the driver, there were 2 other occupants in the car in civilian clothes. From then on, Nabuyanda impinged through Natete, Lubaga, Machindye, and up to Buziga Resort to my residence. The same car continued following us closely up to my residence gate. When my residence police guards opened for my vehicle to enter, the escorting car reversed and drove away without its occupants saying hello to us. My guess is that the government must have taken the words of Mzee Gurume seriously, and they were making sure that nothing happened to me on my return journey from Mbarara to Kampala. You know,
it's a long chapter, but so important to understand who President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni is, according to Professor Dr. Honorable His Excellency George Wilson Kanyeihamba. So it's interesting. It begins on page 63. I mean 65.
65 to 83.
But one interesting point here. Okay, there are so many interesting points. But when you look at page 69, Kanyeihamba alaga nti niwe tali bade Uganda. Museveni yali mwetegefu okufuga ensi endala yonna mu Africa. When you look at the second paragraph on page 69, at the same time, all along he dreamed, desired and longed to rule an African country one day.
That means determination.
Niwe tali bade Uganda.
He had the determination, he had the charisma. How many youths of today have that determination that young man had then?
Yes. You know, very many people don't know the roots of President Museveni. President Museveni says he's from Chiruhura. But let us read the back page. I think Farida tuyambe tusomako ka back page.
About the book?
Yes, about the book.
I have known and worked with President Museveni since the 1980s. Later, I came to know him as a fellow Munyachigezi, as he is described in the publication of the Clans and Totems of Munyachigezi, in which was authored by Ismail B.K. Kavanunuche, where he is described on page 239 as a prominent Munyachigezi. As a young man, he worked tirelessly hard and exhibited the principles of the Munyachigezi culture, namely loyalty and hard work. Qualities President Museveni exhibited exceeding the well in the first decade of his presidency of the Republic of Uganda. The central theme of his ascendancy to power was encapsulated in his first political statement to Ugandans, is that he was not mere change of guards, but a fundamental change. One of his earliest policies was to wage war against corruption. This book is about his miserable failure to defeat corruption in Uganda, with the disastrous results affecting the country, Ugandan people's liberty, human rights, trust in government, and dissatisfaction in almost every service or responsibly expected of government.
Yeah, thank you so much. So
Munyachigezi and Munyankola are totally different things.
Yes, Munyachigezi goes up to
Bachiga.
Some parts of Congo, some parts of Rwanda,
and actually it has 4.
But even in this book of Clans and Totems of Munyachigezi, there's some parts where Museveni is believed to be from Tanzania. If you look, it's somewhere a little bit big, but
so because that actually brings us to the statement of he was determined any country, because he has roots
Congo,
in most countries.
Uganda, even Burundi, any. So Uganda was a weak entry point.
It was a weak entry point. Ochirese bulungi. So we afuna bwaita.
That's why newe again amushana munsi abanyarwanda bamwanguyira uyo kubana olutalo era n'abayambako kubazaayo abamu batwale amutwale gaabo.
Ama technique ebeerawo wemba ngenza okulwana nemanya nti Farida musoga munana. Farida njogera naye mu lusoga. Nemugamba Farida twandibadde nno kino kiyamba ffenna kyenvolaba abanyarwanda bamwanguwira woba ogenze mba Tanzania parts eziri awo be Congo bagamba wayi ndi muntu wammwe
yabazimbe n'essomero
oye mwami Museveni
lwansonga bawerokaminga nnyo ekyabwe.
So chapter gye tubaddemu eraga mwami Museveni is first of all a power hungry human being. He will do anything.
Find out some comments mangu. Naigwe ayagala okutubya ku simu. Nawo so okutubya ku simu kati. Airtel 0759 emu 32 3 emu note 0759 emu 32 3 emu note. Eya MTN 0789 note emu 7 emu 5. Note musanvu munana mwenda note emu musanvu emu 5 oboso okutukubira oba oliawo nawe nobako nekyobuuza oba kyowabula oba kyogatta kana akatabo kumtwalo enajjoka oba osobola okafuna oba liyali ku simu. Hello omukuyi waffe omulabi waffe tukwaniriza animated drive. Hello, are you line? Tukwaniriza animated drive.
Hello?
Yes,
no man here. You guys, good morning.
Morning.
Review. Kati, for me, my take home from Kanyehamba's book, in fact, we read his character is that he's, he's a rare species. What I did at Malaga Kanga. Msiwa kumwadeka ofisi. Na hiyo noma mwana bwa RDC na kusubira mwenzo gamba yaza alibane Museveni. You can imagine with how Solomon is reading that book and what is in the book. Right. Ye togenda mukanga oloko mwandeka limuko. So he will forever stand kumazima oba kikuluma ninga yakoze kyalaba ekituufu. Definitely nega kuba tunayiranga human being ayinza okubanga naye ayibira ne faults ze ng'omuntu. As a serious of law, I remember abantu abo bamukastigatinganga ku musango gyasejjusa nga bwegumubuuzaako gumuggyako ne waya naye nga yeekeri ntakola ki tagwejjusa. But definitely to say no, as his character was a true description of a figure, a typical one. Jacola Chalanga is true. Or western and western, otherwise, you guys not for the show.
Toyanze. Abamulembe gwe bavubuka ki asobola okuyimirira n'agamba ha Friday yampa omulimo. Naye andabyemu ye agamba ABCD. Nsobola okumwanukula bameka kuba truth be told nti ngano mani bwagambye nti paka nolwaleero Professor Kanyeihamba tomukanga ate omusatiisa na privileges bwabanga kyakkirizamu kyekyo ajja kufa nakyo naye paka ng'akikkiriza okutuusa either nga you've agreed to disagree or you've decided to disagree to agree on what he believes in is right. That's Professor Kanyeihamba. Naye webala kubanga kwoli kubanga
so what are the take home lessons from this book?
Okusobola kwa byonna nze ndowooza abavubuka tukyalina omulimu munene nnyo. If we really need change that we claim to be wanting tukyalina omulimu munene. Okusobola kwa byonna nti omugaati bakuwaka position ne justified. Nze nina mikwano gya Norman akubye essimu onina RDC omu yali mu struggle naye anonya position. I remember Norman was kidnapped and mistreated, tortured. Kati webamudampinga RDC ne yakubyanga ebifaananyi. Okay, by then yali RDC niwe ebifaananyi nga abiweza mu State House. Kati bwe yamala okufuna ekifo anyway nga aweereza agamba nti is the controller of Norman. Wamu position kana akyusa emundu kati yakuba eza opposition naye nga eri opposition but is one of nti fa abavuka mu mulembe guno we are easily satisfied with petty
tolowooza nti it is because of the unemployment into when you get a job or you know okukyegumizaako you do what the dictator, as they call him, what the dictator is telling you to do, because you know when you lose it the chances of getting another job are really minimal.
You see Farida, when you get fever or malaria, and you start sweating, you don't wipe the sweat. That I'm sweating, let me wipe it. I'll send away all the other symptoms, the shivering, the headache, the stomach, the running stomach if it's there. What you do is you treat the malaria because it's the cause of the sweating. The cause of unemployment is by the regime. It is limited. The bureaucracies created, Kanyeihamba talks about in his book, The Defeat of President Museveni, are the ones that have situated this unemployment, are the ones that have crippled the delivery of service to the extent that Farida, as an opposition figure or as a media personnel, we all know journalists who have suffered regime brutality because they report the story the way it is.
The way it is.
Like the Digitalk. We know journalists who have gone to warehouses because they report the truth. Some have given up. I know of a certain journalist in a certain media house for purposes of protecting his name and maybe this media house. I won't attack them. But for him, even in, for lack of a better word, in irrational situations where we see a murder happening, he will come out and call it a massage and justify why the murder had to occur. And he thought he would be the president, the state secretary of press to the president, but surprisingly, tebachimwa. So what you say is very true. So at a time where young people should entertain that discussion, it is not alleged. It's how when Rajtavayo could justify it. But last time Twalabanga shortlist, so and so, presidential state press advisor. Nesa when we are sirika.
Because yalaba omukisa gwagenda.
Omukisa gwakola ki? Gwagenda. So tomanya ayinza obbala wakati awo nga waliwo ka pressure n'akomawo nate n'agamba nti Bobi Wine abadde teyeetaagisa genda wa Masaka oba genda Kayunga kyokka nga Museveni yabadde. I'm sure singa ye reportings age Kayunga yandibadde atugamba kabadde free and fair.
Kino omuvubuka alina kukola ki apart from alina kukola ki okuva Book of Lamentation agende mu Book of Acts of Apostle for him to get revelation, revelation?
Ekisooka is the opposition in Uganda. The biggest problem of Uganda are opposition members. I don't believe we have political parties because the NRM is a movement.
So what do we
in
have?
The incident that we don't have a ruling political party, we can't have an opposition. So we are having opposition figures and opinion bearers. Since we are in a movement, Museveni ideologically, but realistically, to the national resistance movement, we are all resisting. Museveni is resisting, the opposition is resisting.
Now, what is Museveni resisting within resistance?
What Museveni is resisting is good leadership, democracy, the rule of law, and he lacks integrity. That is why he has been defeated by this war against corruption.
But Museveni has told, whenever you go to Chankwan's, they take you through ideologies. Now, what are the terms
why do you
saying that he lacks integrity, yet is the master, tutor, teacher, lecturer of ideology?
I want us to be objective. We have seen reports being outlined in here. I will use the most common example, without fear or favor, of Jim Muhwezi. We all know.
He's a convict.
Yes. Recently they had a scuffle with Semuju where Semuju alleged him of okusitula omufaliso gwa inchi bbiri okuguzeewo okuva mu komera. Jim Muhwezi is a convict. Sam Kutesa had the saga.
Even Museveni himself is accused in America.
Yes, but what action has been taken? Jim Muhwezi badde bakusiiga ettaka. Come back, be my minister.
Mike Mukula.
Be minister for security. Mike Mukula. I've given you a pivotal position in the NRM.
But people change, people reform.
Not with leadership.
Because after serving your sentence, you reform and come back.
Akambe wekaba tekanna kusala. Tomanya ati kasala. Ate ne gwe walabyeko yabeera omwana.
Very good. Which meaning, walabyeko President Museveni.
No.
Abamukirizaamu bagamba nti ye mwana.
No, President Museveni takyali mwana.
Kati kyana. Gwana. Actually, si position ya President Museveni. When President Museveni came
and waged war against Obote, Obote stood on Uganda television. Abaliwo bajja kugamba. N'agamba Obote, these were the words of Obote, if I may quote him verbatim. We have heard that Museveni has gone to the bush. We shall find him there, pass him, nearly dead, eaten by the lions. That is what Obote thought. Obote thought Museveni tasobola musigukulula. He could not succeed him. But he was wrong.
Do we have determined Ugandans that are really ready to go and take up the front to oust President Museveni from power?
Museveni was a student in Dar es Salaam. One of the lecturers asked, who is the greatest leader that has ever lived? Museveni nawanika omukono. Lecturer namuwa omukisa. Museveni stood up wadde teyamalayo degree n'agamba nti Napoleon
Bonaparte
is dead. Mussolini is no more. Metternich will never come back. But I am here. Those were the words of Museveni. So, as the young people, because this is our cause, we are 75.8.
You claim to be your cause. You allege it's your cause.
It is our cause in words, yes.
No, not in words. Now is the time that we have to go down. Faba weweddwako omukisa okubikola page emu ya Kanyeihamba. Abali informed. Tutule n'omuvubuka at all levels. We engage the youth in the informal sector and formal sector, and we are not giving them a reason because the reason is there.
The reason is there.
Is there.
But you need
but they
to
need
give
enlightenment.
them ways of how they can resolve
Yes.
it.
So asking a question of, is there anybody willing and ready? The young people are willing and ready. And we are here. And to me, this is a very precious gift for Christmas Professor Kanyeihamba gave us. And I think as young people, we should take on the mantle. We should be engaging as we are saying that we are entertaining Museveni's succession date. We might not have the date, we might not have him go in just 30 minutes, but it is enough for Museveni to sit down and give us a date. That
Don't you think that is unrealistic?
February,
and it is not achievable?
You know what happened in Zimbabwe? Newakamuzu where there is a will, corruption will be defeated.
Abalabi abalungi akadde katulidde empinga mubadde bangi era muli bangi abadde ku mukutu tettenyi nabukero baddeko just yahabwe
the flow of the book makes one want to reread it.
Bwobanga omanyi okusoma bwobanga oli musomi mulungi teri katabo ka Kanyeihamba kusoma page 1 the joy and the blessings of being who you are. The day I read it, I felt like I should finish the whole chapters. Godfrey Gawe bali kubera ko Brooke Williams obaddeko nnyo olina ensonga z'oyogedde nnyingi
Omwami theory walisinyagamba I love your submission and articulation of the issues.
Bakusiimye Mutale Farouk obaddeko nnyo tumuhimbise mwebale nnyo mubadde bangi mwebale nnyo Sharon erinnya banna Charlotte. Anyway, kale
Charlotte
mubadde balabi balungi nnyo tujja kusukkawo wano tusuubira kuba akatabo kano kakyali kanene naye tugenda mukomyawo ndowooza I think next week kuba Professor Kanyeihamba alina akatabo akalala ke yawandiise The Women I Have Loved. Look for that book omanye was Kanyeihamba womanizer. How did he love so many women to that extent? Yet he's a professor. Yabajanga ku university, yabajanga mu makubo, yabajanga The Women I've Loved. Nti okuva March to date yakawandika obutabo ndowooza buna.
Yeah, buna.
So what intelligent professor we have in our generation. Mwebale nnyo, mwebale ddala mbadde nze mukose Arnold Anthony, mbadde n'ebikobere Farida Kuset, nga tukyaziza omugenyi waffe Nabuyanda John Solomon. Ku kamera kuliko omukyala Teddy Tenjo Nabukera kwosa ne Jeremiah Muchibi ali mu control room n'aba digital staff yonna badde okulaba wa sound aba technical okulaba nga tugenda kumpewo tugenda kukiriza Nabuyanda kusibula kuba akomawo next initial endala okubanga amalayo obubaka wa Professor George Wilson Kanyeihamba mutukirize tusukka wano naye tubagaliza omwaka omupya ogw'omulembe kuba eno ye Tuesday esembyeyo mu 2021. Mwebale nnyo, mwebale ddala.
Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.